Okay. So we are on page something, 155, with student work. And we're going to read through John, John 9, 1 through 41. And then we'll answer these questions together. Does anyone want to read part of this? Thank you, John. So I'm going to do the first, I don't know, just keep reading till you're done, and then we'll pass it off to someone else, okay? Then just read all of it, that's fine. But nice and loud so the people at home can hear you.
And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither had this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. I was worked over to him who sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sin. He went his way therefore, and washed, and came to him. The neighbors therefore, and they which before had seen him that he was blind, said, Is not this he that sat and begged? Some said, This is he. Others said, He is like him. But he said, I am he. Therefore said they unto him, How were thine eyes opened? He answered and said, A man that was called Jesus made clay, and anointed mine eyes, and said unto me, Go to the pool of Siloam, and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. And then they said they unto him, Where is he? He said, I know not. They brought to the Pharisees him that aforetime was blind. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay, and opened his eyes. Then again the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. He said unto them, He put clay upon mine eyes, and I washed, and he see. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, This man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath day. Others said, How can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? And there was a division among them. But saying to the blind man again, What sayest thou of him, that he hath opened thine eyes? He said, He is a prophet. But the Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind, and received his sight, until they told the parents of him that had received his sight. And they asked him, saying, Is this your son, who ye say was born blind? How then doth he now see? His parents answered them, and said, We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But by what means he now seeth, we know not. Or who hath opened his eyes, we know not. He is of age, ask him, we shall speak for himself. These words spake his parents, because they feared the Jews. For the Jews had agreed already, that if any man did confess that he was Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. Therefore said his parents, He is of age, ask him. Then again called they the man that was blind, and said unto him, Give God the praise, we know that this man is a sinner. He answered and said, Whether he be a sinner or no, I know not. One thing I know, that, whereas I was blind, now I see. Then said they to him again, What did he to thee? How opened he thine eyes? He answered them, I have told you already, and you did not hear. Wherefore would ye hear it again? Will ye also be his disciples? Then they reviled him, and said, Thou art his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. We know that God spake unto Moses. As for this fellow, we know not from whence he is. The man answered and said unto them, Why herein is a marvelous thing, that ye know not from whence he is, and yet he hath opened mine eyes. Now we know that God heareth not sinners, but if any man be a worshipper of God, and doeth his will, him he heareth. Since the world began was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind. If this man were not of God, he could do nothing. They answered and said unto him, Thou wast also together born in sins, and dost thou teach us? And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he found him, he said unto him, Dost thou believe on the Son of God? He answered and said, Who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him? And Jesus said unto him, Thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with thee. And he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshipped him. And judgment I am come into this world. They which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, Are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, If ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, We see, therefore your sin remains.
Thank you. The first question says, Jesus said that a man was born blind, so that the man was born blind, so that God's power might be shown through him. Explain an obstacle in your life or your family that may exist so God can show you his power. Why don't you write something down? I'm not going to force anyone to say something. By the way, the people that write the curriculum would have been very happy. And I don't want to force anyone to say anything. I'll tell you that for me and for our family, um, there have been a number of difficult times. One of those was when Jeff's brother, at age 45, died of a very sudden. And that was the second of my in-laws' children that they lost as adults. Jeff was that an only child, and that was hard. For me personally, um, I think that the hardest thing I've ever walked through was when my son Josh walked away from his faith at about 19 or 19 years old. And it lasted 4 years. I didn't handle it well. Had a 4-year freak out. And I remember having different conversations with him, and he told me that he never believed it. He just faked it all the time. And I kept running, scenes of his childhood in my mind. I'm thinking that I couldn't have been. I mean, just a number of things that he did that showed his faith. And I got really good counsel from friends. I read a book that helped me a lot. And God was always present with me through that time. It was really hard. Um, and he's back now and has been for some time. I got a call from our pastor that at that time he'd been Josh's youth pastor, but at that time he was in charge of our missionaries. And he said, I'm thinking about asking Josh to go to Zambia. By the way, I can say this on YouTube because Josh has given me full reins of talking. And he said, do you think he could do what he's supposed to do and act the way he's supposed to have. And I said, well, I'd be shocked if he said yes, but if you're asking me, does he know why you're going, and does he, will he do what he's supposed to do? I think so. And I found out later that a dear friend of mine had been waking up in the middle of the night. God had been waking her up in the middle of the night to pray for Josh. And she called our pastor and said, Josh, God told me Josh was supposed to go to Zambia. Now listen, that Carrie, I've known Carrie for 25 years. She's never spoken that way. Like, this was unusual. But she loved Josh. So she was prompted to pray for him. And so Josh did go to Zambia. And he was pretty standoffish at first, but when they went into the bush to have a VBS, he met a little orphan boy named Gift. And the first thing Gift did when he met Josh was punch him in the stomach. And no, actually, no, that was the first thing he did was Josh put down his hand for a high five, and he just smacked it as hard as he could. And then he thought, well, that's interesting. And then he started beating up on all the kids. This little boy named Gift, and then he started beating up on Josh, like punching him. And everybody said, "Why are you letting him do that?" He said, "It's keeping him from. He can't hurt me. Kids, so that's good." And Josh took a break. They had a break time, and it was hot, of course, and he went under a tree, and he didn't know what he should do, and so he opened up his Bible and to Genesis 1, and he started to read aloud. And he didn't know it, but he was gathering people around him that were listening. One of them was Gift. And when they got up to go back to the VBS, Gift took Josh's hand. Now, at first, when Josh was reading, Gift was jammering. He was, in Bemba, and Josh didn't know what he said, so he asked somebody. He says you're an idiot because you don't speak his language. He's laughing. And so when he got up, Gift took Josh's hand, and from that moment on, every picture of Josh was Gift wearing Josh's sunglasses, Gift on Josh's shoulders, Gift, Josh swinging Gift around. I mean, they were inseparable. And Josh would say, and he told me this, that he doesn't process what's happening in the moment. After the moment, he processes it. And on the trip home or back to where they were staying, he said, Mom, I realized I am guilty. I have spent 4 years punching God, telling him he doesn't speak my language, he doesn't understand. And the whole time I should have been taking his hand and loving him. Only God reveals truth. And Josh was changed. Now, there's a lot about that story, but one of the beautiful things that came from it is that Carrie, that same friend, invited Josh to their family meeting for the express purpose of meeting her niece, who is now my daughter. And I tell you that because that is the first thing I thought of for the question, but also God brings beauty from ashes. He's brought a lot of beauty from the ashes of Josh's life. So, next question. If you were a Pharisee, why would you be so angry that a man was healed? Would you be primarily concerned about the Sabbath, or would you have another motivation?
Also, if I was a Pharisee, I'd be angry along Sabbath or Sabbath that would just be like an excuse. Rather than just not excuse to
Yeah, the word I thought of was smokescreen, right?
Yeah.
If you kind of, yeah, but an excuse is a perfect word for it too. Yeah, what they're really upset about is that is his popularity. That people are listening to him and not to them. He's getting the crowds; they are not. They're jealous of his popularity. They're jealous of his sway over the people. Look, we're the leaders of Israel. We're the teachers of Israel. People are supposed to be listening to us. And be like if in their minds, one of y'all coming up here pushing me off and saying, "I'm going to do the lecture today," and I'd be like, "No, you're not." They were angry about that. Angry that they were losing their position. At one point, they're going to say that we're going to lose our position if they keep writing it. Do you think the blind man's parents took the easy way out because of their fear?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Great parents. Yeah, we're not going to protect you. You're on your own. But he's of age. Throw him out. So, what would you have done differently? I'm not sure you can really answer that.
None of us are children.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't basically disown my child.
But at least hear them out, like
Yeah.
what actually happened.
I mean, like,
It's
think
like-
of your mom. Like, if your kid's born blind and then like is magically healed, like, and like your kid got bullied or like couldn't do all the things all the other kids could, you'd be like so upset. And like if you found out your kid can now see, you'd be so happy. And
Right.
she's just like, whatever.
Yeah, she's
Right.
just thinking about herself.
Right. Right. Exactly. We'll talk more about that when we return to the lecture. But just so you know, when it says they cast him out or they threatened to cast them out, that doesn't just mean, like if Mr. Hood told you to go home, for some reason you got in trouble, or that you have a out of school suspension for a week or something, and then you come back. No, it was you are what Christians would call it is disfellowshipped. Like you are no longer a Jew. You are no longer part of Israel. You no longer have any option for being saved.
Excommunicated.
Yeah, and even worse than excommunication. I'm not sure excommunication. I don't know. I don't know if excommunication means you're no longer Catholic, or you're no longer a believer. Yeah, exactly. So that was a real thing. Like, well, I'm willing to do this even for my own kid. So it isn't just leave the temple. It's you're done. You're not a Jew.
Stop it, you need help.
Stop. Yes. Next question.
Michael,
I
do
know
I
I'm kidding. It's like that. Irony is a situation that is opposite from what we might expect. This chapter shows tremendous irony about who is blind to the truth. About Christ and who can see it. How is irony present in this chapter? And it tells you to look at 30 to 34. Yes.
So like a blind man was healed, but the Pharisees are really, really, really blind to the truth.
Right. The blind man can see spiritually, right? The seeing people can't. So who's really the one that is blind to the truth? It's the Pharisees. Yeah. And then another one would be that here is this beggar, this outcast that is professing Jesus as basically as the Christ. He's from God. And the people who have been looking for Messiah and waiting for Messiah for centuries
No thanks.
Don't see that. Don't understand that. And the beggar wouldn't have had an education. He wouldn't have. I mean, he was out on the streets begging. He didn't have a job. He didn't have a way to have a job, and yet he understands more truth than the learned Pharisees. Yes.
So now that he can see, and he hasn't, like, he probably hasn't been to school, and probably hasn't, like, doesn't have a trade and stuff like that. What's he supposed to do now that he can see?
Yeah, I imagine. I don't know. The Bible doesn't tell us. I don't know if he decided to be one of Christ's followers. Remember, he had more disciples than the 12. Or if now that he could see, he learned a trade of some kind. I'm sure he would have had to make a living for himself somehow. Next question, last question. In this chapter and others before, the Pharisees are constantly attacking Jesus because of their spiritual blindness. Do you think they know the truth about him but are intentionally rejecting it? Or are they so stuck in their tradition that they don't understand? Why do you think?
I think that it's not like an intentional rejection. I think part of it is that they don't realize he's the Messiah. They're so he has to meet these specific requirements, and because of this certain thing in his background, therefore he's not the Messiah. And then there's also they might know that he is the Messiah, but they don't want to know him.
Yeah, it could be a both and instead of an either or. Yes.
I think it's both. I think some of them, like Nicodemus, I think Nicodemus knew, and obviously he didn't reject Jesus, but if Nicodemus knew, I'm sure there are others that recognized it, but they just were like too caught up in their power seeking that they intentionally rejected it. But then I think there were other ones that just were like real followers, just real followers of the herd, and they were like, oh well, that one said that he was lying, so I think he's lying too. And I think they're just dumb. They don't like to think for themselves.
Right. And they've missed a lot of what Scripture has to say about Messiah, right? The ones that know it best. Yes, Evan.
Well, like in verse 30, the Bible says like this is an amazing thing. You don't know where he comes from, and yet you open my eyes. So it's like all the signs for them are there, but they're still rejecting, refusing, because it's a direct hit to their power and who they are and who they've made themselves to be. And if this guy is who he says he is, they're not who they thought they were.
Exactly. And I think those words that the formerly blind man spoke were dripping with sarcasm, right? Dripping with sarcasm. Aaron.
Well, they're also kind of in like they've already started digging themselves a hole. And I think in their minds, they're just kind of like, well, if I turn around and say that I was wrong, and this actually is the Messiah, then everybody's going to, like, all that backlash is going to be on me, because I was, like, preventing them from, like, finding the Messiah, and, like, I tried to kill him and all that stuff. And, like, at this point, they're probably just thinking it's better to just keep digging them.
Yeah, have you ever done that? I've done that, right? You've gone this deep. There ain't no way out now. So you're just going to double down on whatever it is, and you know you're wrong. You know you're wrong. Time when I was your age. Ellie.
They kind of remind me of like, you ever see a little kid that's just like adamant and not believing something, like you can like literally show it to them,
Right.
and they're like no, and like that's what I'm reminded of, where they're like, even though like it is like this, and they're just no.
Yeah, I remember my maternal grandmother was early in her Alzheimer's, that she didn't think that we were her grandchildren, or that she was my dad's mother. And they kept like showing, like they brought us up and they said, look, these are our children and they're your grandchildren. But she couldn't understand it. She couldn't believe it. Yes, I don't know.
I feel like the one story where Jesus asked them, where was John the disciple from? Is he of earth or of heaven? They go and discuss it and like they give like like what Aaron said, like he has the reasons like, oh, well, like he stays from heaven, people get mad at like, why I don't believe him. But he said, if we say, or people get mad at us because they thought he was a prophet. So, like
Right.
Aaron said, they just started to fill the hole.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, excellent job on this. We will go back to the lecture tomorrow. And and yeah, you can rest for a while. Don't snore. But
May I go grab my book?
yes.
Thank you.
It has like a